What do you think of when you hear the word fairy tale? Fairy tale, I guess 2 words. What do you think of, Jameer?
Fake story.
Fake story. Anybody think something different? Jesse?
This is fairy and tale.
Fairy and tale, so you break it apart into those 2 parts. Okay? What I want you to do on your paper is I want you to write down anything you can think of, any fairy tales you know, anything on your paper to get us started. Anything that relates to fairy tales or a fairy tale. And it can just be random words. It doesn't have to even be complete sentences. And it's okay if they're misspelled. Just sound them out the best you can, okay? What do you have so far? Not real, okay? Why don't you start with Josephine? Cinderella? Tinkerbell? What do you... Is that Jack and the Beanstalk? Okay. Some of the ones I've seen so far, different titles. I've seen Cinderella, Jack and the Beanstalk, and Tinkerbell. Does anybody know what story Tinkerbell is from? She has her own movies now, her own stories, but she...
Peter Pan?
Yes. Very good. I'm going to write down some too. When you have at least 3 ideas on your paper, put your pencil down so I know you're ready to share your ideas. Let's see, Damon's ready. Jameer, you ready? And Jesse, you're finishing up? Okay, while Jesse's finishing, who wants to share what they put down when they think of fairy tales? Damon?
I think of nonfiction and fiction.
Nonfiction and fiction. What does nonfiction mean to you?
I think it means real.
Okay, what do you guys think? When you hear nonfiction, what do you think?
True.
True
It's
story.
true.
Do you think a fairy tale would be a nonfiction story?
No.
No. Why would a fairy tale be a fictional story? What about fairy tales make them a fiction?
Because there's drawings.
There are drawings instead of photographs. What about within the story itself? What kind of things usually happen?
There's magic.
Magic. There's a lot of magic in fairy tales. And some magic we might believe is possible, but can all the things that happen in fairy tales happen in real life?
No.
No, usually not. Okay, what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at our own fairy tale. This is Rumpelstiltskin. Has anybody heard of him before? Anybody read this? You read this before?
It's in the show. It only comes on Monday. It's on Ever After.
Okay, so you've seen something on TV about this fairy tale? Jesse?
When they said she can spin a straw into gold, and she has this witch or whatever she know how to make straw out of gold, she had to give him something. And he
Oh,
makes
so
a
it
straw
sounds
to
like something is owed for it. Don't tell us the ending, because we want to read to find out. What I want you guys to do is turn to the first page, because there's a word I want us to talk about before we start. Okay, and flip past the forward, and let's find the picture that you guys are going to need to know.
This one?
Very first page of the story. You guys turn to this one. So you want to go a little bit further, Jesse. Find the word Miller on this page.
Found it.
Okay, point to the word Miller, and I want you to read this sentence to yourself, focusing on what Miller might mean. Read the sentence to yourself. And I want you guys to give me your best guess for what Miller might mean in this sentence. Right? Who can read the sentence out loud for us? Jesse.
Once there was a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter.
Okay. What do you think Miller might mean in this sentence? Jameer?
Person?
A person. It's definitely describing a person. What do you think he might do?
Might sell something?
He might sell something. Does anybody know how the mill part would relate to his name? Yes. Mill. Do you guys know what a mill is?
I think I heard of that before.
Okay, so nobody is too sure on this one. All right, look with your partner to find the word miller to see how it might relate to a mill and describe a little bit more about what this character actually does. And you can move the dictionary closer to you if you need to, okay? What letter are you guys going to look at? M. And where can you look if you need to see it spelled?
Almost at the end of the page.
Almost. Make sure to look back in your book if you need to check the spelling of Miller. We want to find out what a miller does.
After L's.
Those are an H, H-I-L-K-L-N. You guys are an M. M what? What's the second letter? M-I. I'm M-I. Okay, what's the third letter? What's the third letter you need? Oh. Jameer, what's the third letter? L. M-I-N. We've gone a little bit too far. M-I-L. And you guys have gone a little bit too far. For M-I-S, we need to go back for our what? The L. Okay? Looking for mill. Oh. I see mill stone, mill wheel. Check on page 370. You guys are already there.
You said Miller.
Miller. So there's going to be a lot of words with mill. Okay? Dana, can you read that to us?
A person who owns or runs a mill. And this.
We didn't really know what mill was. Where can we look on the same page to find mill? What is a mill?
Flour mill.
Okay, the example they gave us for flour. Who can read the definition of mill that's right above Miller?
Ooh, milk.
Not milk. Josephine, can you read the definition for mill?
Right here.
Yeah.
Mill.
I'll start right there.
Machine for grinding grain into flour.
Okay, so what does a mill do?
It smushes.
It smushes, it grinds.
Like the
And what does it turn the grain into?
meat.
Not meat.
A meal.
Flour. We're not talking about the pretty flours that we learned about in our classroom. What kind of flour are we talking about?
The flour that cook stuff with.
That you're cooking with. So what does a miller do?
Cooks.
Flour.
He makes the flour. He takes the grain that grows and he grinds it up in his mill to make flour. All right, very good. You guys can sit back down. There's one other word that when I looked at this book, I said it's going to be really difficult. Turn back to the front cover. Very front cover. Find the word that I think is going to be that difficult word when we're reading. Yeah, that one. Okay, very first page. Everybody point to the first letter of this word. What would the first sound be that you make for this word? Rump. Rump, okay? So we got the first four letters make rump. What do we do next? Rump,
And the next letter is bull.
rump, ol, rumple,
And the next one is
still,
And then the next one is skin.
skin. Okay, so we have to break it down. Who thinks they can say this word if you break it down into pieces? All right, Jameer, start us off. Perfect. Okay, what can we do to help us as we read it by ourselves as we're going through? What can you do to make sure you've got each part? Sound it out, and what do I like to do when I'm sounding out words? Point to each piece. Who thinks they can show me by pointing at it? Jesse? Very good. Josephine, can I hear you do it? Okay. Dana? Very good. So who can tell me what a miller is before we start? Jesse. They crush up what?
Flour.
They make the flour by crushing up. Who can help them? What does the miller crush up to make that flour? What was it?
Into flour.
What do they crush up?
Flour.
They make the flour by crushing this up. Machine for grinding what?
Grain.
Grain. So grain is growing out in the field. You might see a field where farmers work that has tall kind of sticks
Like this?
coming up. They're not sticks. Yes. Just like that. But before they turn into, it's like hay. Very similar to that. But it's something that we can use to pound together and make our flour. What does flour make?
Part of it.
What's one thing you know that flour is in?
Ooh, cake.
Cake. We use flour in cake. I know flour goes into the
Muffins?
bread. Muffins. So the miller is pretty important. But the miller in this story, he doesn't have a lot of money. And that causes him to have a problem. And that problem he kind of passes off on his daughter. All right, turn to the first page. We're going to start reading. And we're going to start doing this popcorn style. So when I call your name, you're going to pick up. And let's skip the forward and start just with that first page where we read Miller before. Okay? Make sure everybody's on there. Jesse, you're going to go a little further. Perfect. Point to the first word on this page, and I'm going to call you at random. When I call your name, you're going to take over for the next person, okay? All right, Josephine.
Once there was a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter.
Next page. Keep going.
On his way to town, one day the miller for the king.
Okay, who thinks they can help break that word down? Jesse, how would you break it down? Encounter. What does it mean to encounter someone? Walking down the street and I encountered.
Telling them where to go.
So, let's see, one day on his way to town, the miller encountered the king. Do you think the miller told the king where to go?
No.
No. What could he have done? Saw him. Yeah, he bumped into him, saw him when he was walking to his job. Okay, keep going, Josephine.
Waiting wanted to impress him. The miller said, I have a daughter who knows the art of spinning straw into gold.
Ugh. Do you think, I know this is a fairy tale, but do you think his daughter really can spin straw into gold?
No. Ruffles still skin her big.
Oh, okay. So we're starting off and the king is already telling him. He's being told a pretty big lie by the miller. The miller has just told the king something that's not true. Jameer, pick up from there.
Now the king had a passion for gold. It should such an art sugared him. So he ordered the miller to send his daughter to the castle straight away.
What's going to happen when the daughter gets to the castle? If the daughter can't do this, Dana?
He's not going to know how to sew the gold.
Yeah, I mean, if we were sent in the same place, would we know what to do?
No.
No.
At all.
All right, keep going, Jameer.
When the gold was brought before him, the king led her to a room that was filled with straw. He gave her straw and a spinning wheel and said, You may spin all night, but if you have not spun your straw to good by moonlight, you will have to die.
Oh no. This isn't a very happy fairy tale, is it?
Wait, what?
What did the king just say? If she doesn't get it done, what's going to happen?
She's going to die.
She's going to die. So her dad told a pretty big lie to the king, and now if she doesn't do what her dad said she could do, the king says that she's done. How do you think she feels at this point in the story?
Scared.
Scared? Why would she be scared?
Because she doesn't want to die.
She doesn't want to die. And she doesn't know how to spin straw into gold. Ugh. Jesse, pick up from there. With that.
When the girl was about before him.
With that. So Jameer's already read that part. We're going to start right down here with that. Got it?
With that, he locked the door and the girl was right inside the room.
Turn to the next page. Keep going, Jesse.
There sat the poor miller's daughter without the slightest idea how anyone could spin straw into gold.
Okay, Dana, pick up.
For the life of her said she did not know what to do. She grew more and more frightened, and then she began to weep.
How does the author show us how she feels about what the king's told her to do?
Sad?
How does the author show us that?
She's crying.
Okay, so in the picture you see that she's crying. Does the author say anything that lets you know how she's feeling?
Frightened.
He uses the word frightened. Very good. What does it mean to be frightened?
Like scared.
Like you're scared. What else does the author give us that helps us know how she's feeling?
Like she said.
Does it say that she's sad? Ooh, what does it say? That she's weeping. What does it mean to weep?
To cry.
To cry, but it's not just a little tear, it's not just a little cry. You're crying a lot, you're sobbing. You're not going to be just able to wipe it away and say, oh, I got something in my eyes. It's going to be obvious. It's going to be crying like you've never cried before. Okay. All right, let's see. Keep going on the other page for us.
Suddenly the doors rang open, and a tiny man stepped in. Good evening, Mr. Miller. He said, why are you sobbing? Oh, that girl cried. I must spin this straw into gold, and I don't know how.
Who do you think this character is? Jesse?
Rumpelstiltskin.
Okay, let's find out. Josephine, pick up.
What will you give me if I spin it for you? The little man asked. My necklace, answered the girl. The little man took her necklace and sat down at the spinning wheel. He pulled 3 times, whirl, and the spool was one full of gold. 3. He fitted another spool on and roll. 3 pulls and that one too was full.
Jameer.
And
And?
was wound full of gold. Good. He fitted another spool on and rolled. 3 pulls and that one too was full. And so it went until one evening all the straw was spun and all the spools were full of gold.
Okay, so what did Rumpelstiltskin do for the miller's daughter? Jesse, what did he do?
Spin straw into gold.
But was he doing it because he was kind-hearted, or did he get something in return?
He gets something in return.
Jameer, what did he get in return? Her necklace. So what kind of character would you say that Rumpelstiltskin is so far? What do you think about him so far?
Nice.
You think he's nice? Why do you think he's nice?
Because he's helping the girl.
Okay. Does anybody disagree? Anybody think he's not so nice?
He wanted to take her stuff for all the straw to go.
Can you take that out so I can hear you?
Well, he took the necklace to spin the straw to gold.
Yeah, when he took the necklace, I don't know how nice he really is, because if my friend asks me for something, I'm not going to say, I'll do that for you if you give me your favorite toy.
Because of the last part of the story, he's gonna say.
Oh, don't tell us the last part yet. If you already know, don't tell that to us. I'm thinking if he was really a good friend and a kind-hearted person, would he ask for anything in return?
No.
I mean, he comes in there and sees her sobbing, she's weeping, she's crying her eyes out, and he says, what can you give me? That makes me wonder about what kind of character he really is. But you're right, Dana, at this point, maybe he's nice. But maybe he's not so nice. All right, turn to the next page. Jesse, go ahead and start us off.
When the king came at sunrise, he was amazed, delighted, but all that gold only made him greedy-eyed. So
What word do you think they're using? What word?
greedier.
Greedier, because we know the word greedy. So they're describing him as being even more greedy than he was before.
When the king came at sunrise, he was amazed and delighted, but all that gold only made him greedier, so he led the millers.
Next page. It keeps going on that page.
Daughter to a larger room filled with straw, and ordered her to spin the straw too for dawn, and she rode to her life.
Okay. How would you describe the king?
Greedy.
Greedy. Why would you say he's greedy, Chamir?
And mean because he keeps wanting more.
He has a whole room now of golden thread.
And mean?
Is he happy that he has a room of golden thread?
Yeah. But the girl's not happy that she does spin the straw into golden dawn. It's up for her.
So she's alive. We're happy that she was able to accomplish the first task, but the king doesn't sound like he's satisfied yet. Sounds like he still wants more. Okay? Dana, pick us up there.
The girl did not know what to do. She began to weep. Once more the door opened, and the little man stepped in. What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold for you? He said, the ring on my finger, answered the girl, and the little man took her ring.
Josephine?
Then he set the spinning wheel rolling, and before the night was over, he had spun all the straw into gleaming gold.
Don't flip the page. Freeze there. Okay. So once again, who helped the miller's daughter? The little man. And what is his name?
Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin. And what do you think the king is going to do now that he has the second room full of gold? And don't answer if you've read it. What do you think the king will do now?
Try and get more.
You think he won't be satisfied with 2 rooms of gold? Does anybody agree with Josephine? You all agree. So you think he's not going to be happy. Let's flip and see. All right, shortly after sunrise, the king returned. Piles of golden spools glowed in the morning light. All right, Jesse.
The king rejoiced at the sight of so much gold, but still he was not satisfied. He
Jameer?
led the miller's daughter to a third, even bigger room that was piled high with straw. Tonight you must spin this straw too. Or the king in the future seat you shall become my wife, because he thought I could not find a richer wife in all the world.
What I want you guys to do here is I actually want you to write down whether or not you think that he would be a good person for the miller's daughter to marry. Do you think the king would be a good person? Tell me why or why not. I want you to write it on your booklet. Don't tell me right now. I want you to write down, do you think he would be a good person for the miller's daughter to marry? Why or why not? Because you've learned a little bit about the king. You know some things. What do you think? Do you think this is a good proposition, or do you think this isn't so great for her? What do we always start our sentence with?
Chapter 1.
Very good. And use examples from the story to help support why you think he would or would not be a good person for her to marry. You can flip back. I know there's no page numbers in this book, so you can just describe what page it's on or what the author said. This is going to be our closing.
Because he just wants the gold, and in the book it said he was greedier for gold.
Find me in the book where it said he was greedy for the gold. Okay, can I show this page? I know we don't have page numbers. It makes it really hard. So this is the picture where you see the spools right behind a big room of spools and a big room of straw. And it does say, it says, what about the king?
It said he was greedy for gold.
He's greedy for gold. And Dana, why do you think that's not a good characteristic for the king to have?
Because if he didn't ask for the gold, he can still marry her. But if he did, he wouldn't. I don't want him to marry her because he asked for gold.
Yeah, it seems like he's only interested in getting more what?
Gold.
More gold, more money. He wants to be richer. It doesn't seem like he really cares about her. Jameer, what did you say?
That he shouldn't marry her because she might not want to marry her, because he might be mean and she might not.
Yeah, where in the book does it show you that he's kind of being mean to her?
This keeps making her, telling her to make more and more gold.
And what did he tell her that first night she was at the castle? What was his warning to her? Dana?
If he doesn't make all the gold, she'll die.
That sounds like a terrible thing to tell someone that you might marry. You shouldn't be forcing them to do anything. Yeah, I'm with Jameer and Dana on this. Did you guys agree that he would not make a good husband for her? You did?
Yeah.
Can you read your statement about him?
I don't think she will marry him because he was mean before, and he was mean when he wanted more gold, and he was greedy.
Okay, so you kind of agree with both what Dana and Jameer were saying. Very good. And Jesse, let's hear yours. Do you agree with what they said? You disagree. Why do you disagree with what they've said? Make sure it doesn't cover so we can hear you.
Because she can be the queen and he can be the king.
So Jesse gives us a good point. If she marries him, she's going to be the queen. But is she going to be a happy queen? Probably not, because of what they've been saying. Did you hear the reasons that they gave Jesse? Yeah. It sounds like even though she'd be the queen, which sounds pretty cool, it doesn't seem like she'd have a very kind husband or king to take care of her. Seems like she might be stuck in a room like this, again, to keep working. Doesn't sound like a very happy time for her. Okay? So when we meet again, we're going to finish reading, and we're going to find out what actually happens, and if she does marry him, or if she goes back to be with her father. All right?